Hey y'all, in this video we are going to do something different. I've wanted to do this before, but I just never had a chance, and I want to do story time where I read passages of the Bible about like stories that I really love, and mostly romantic stories. I really like romantic stories in the Bible. And today we're going to be talking about Ruth. I did not really know who Ruth was until like recently, which is pretty sad. But when I read the story, I was like, dang, this is really good. I need to share this. Okay, so let's get started. It's in Ruth 1. Okay, so in the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. I'm not really good with these names. Okay, so I'm sorry if I butcher them. They were Epaphrodites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went to the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Noemi, died. She was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died. Oh, snap. So that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. So Naomi just lost her whole family, and now she's left with 2 daughters-in-law. Okay, verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with the 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you, in the house of your husband." Then she kissed them, and she lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown?" So she was saying to Ruth and Orpah for them to go back home to be with their families, for their families to support them because their husbands died, and those were Naomi's sons. And she was saying, like, even if I marry someone and I have a son like right now, would y'all be willing to wait all those years until they're grown to marry them? And it was just illogical for them to wait with her. And verse 13. "No, my daughters, it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." Dang. So her loyalty with Naomi, with her mother-in-law, is very strong. Okay, so verse 19. Naomi and Ruth returned. So the two of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" So she's kind of blaming God for the death of her family. Verse 22, so Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. So this is important. This is an important detail, because that's where Boaz meets Ruth. Okay. Let me just move this. Verse 2? Or chapter 2, sorry. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of a clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. Ooh, that's our guy. Okay. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go into the field and glean among the ears of the grain after him, in whose sight I shall find favor." And she said to him, "Go, my daughter." So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. So, since it was harvest time, they would collect the barley. They would collect the wheat. I think that's wheat, right? But they would collect the produce, and there would be some left over, and that's what Ruth asked Naomi, like, I'll go pick up what's left over after they've collected the produce. And Naomi gave her permission to go, and she says, verse 3, she happened to come to part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech, and behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem. And he said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered, "The Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to this young man who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" He was referring to Ruth. And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, "She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab." She said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves after the reapers." So she came, and she has continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest. So they knew that she was a hard worker, because she wanted to provide for her mother-in-law. And Boaz, I guess, felt compassion for her. So in verse 8, he says, "Now listen, my daughter," which is kind of weird, because, like, was he old enough to be her father? But, like, I guess a lot of respect, but still, it's kind of weird. Okay. So, verse 9, then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessel and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" But Boaz answered her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother and your native land to come to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." So Boaz told her, "Okay, stay close to my young women, be in my fields only, and I already told the young men not to touch you." So she was protected, she was taken care of when it comes to the food, and he was just, I guess, taking care of her, which is nice, you know. And Boaz also instructed the young men, or the reapers, to leave a little behind so that she can pick up a little more. And I'm just gonna skip to verse 19. So this is when Naomi saw Ruth and Remember, Naomi's the mother-in-law. Ruth is the main person we're talking about. So Ruth had all this food, and Naomi asked her, verse 19, "Where did you glean today, and where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, "The man's name with whom I worked today is Boaz." And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead." Naomi also said to her, "The man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers." And Ruth the Moabite said, "Besides, he said to me, 'You shall keep close by my young men.'" So she was telling Naomi all about how Boaz was taking care of her, was protecting her, was letting her, I guess, pick up more food after the reapers had collected. And verse 22 says, "And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, 'It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, lest in another field you be assaulted.'" So Naomi recognized that Boaz did a good thing by protecting her, because she would be assaulted if she were with like other young men. And so in verse 3, Naomi was basically doing like the matchmaking, and she says, "You know what? Naomi, I guess, found favor with Boaz, and Ruth found favor in him also, because I mean, he was her protector, he was her provider, and she knew that they would be taken care of if she married Boaz, and he was a kind and compassionate man of God, so like, why not?" And okay, so this is like an example that I'm gonna use, or I probably already used it, and it's that Ruth shows interest first, then Boaz asks her to marry him. And that's another thing that that people are controversial about. Does the woman ask the guy out first, or like, how does that work? I mean, and what I've been taught, or what I actually believe in, is that the woman shows interest. The woman can show interest first, but it is the man who is supposed to be pursuing, because if you're just pursuing a guy and he doesn't like you, it's just kind of awkward and kind of desperate, you know. So it's important for the guy to be pursuing the woman. That's how God made them. So, and how she shows interest is a bit weird, and it's kind of embarrassing. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to verse 7. It says, "And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then Ruth came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down." So she lay down at his feet, and I guess that's kind of like a symbolism, like, or that's like the ritual back then, which is pretty weird, because I would never ever lie down at the foot of someone that I liked, which is, yeah. And it was that was her showing interest in Boaz first. And verse 8, "At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet." Like, he was so surprised that she was there. It's like, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings, or corners of a garment." I have a footnote. "Corners of a garment over your servant, for you are a redeemer." And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men." So he recognized that she wasn't going after young men, but she understood that that he recognized her, or she recognized him, as a kind man and a generous man and a compassionate man, and that's what she was attracted to, not some like young guys who are immature and they may be good looking, but if they're immature, it's just like, it doesn't really, it's not very attractive. So he was grateful that she was mature enough to, I guess, recognize that he was a good guy. And okay, so she lay at his feet until the morning, and he could be intimate with her because they were gonna get married, but he didn't. He respected the institution of marriage, and that's why in verse 13 of chapter 4, so Boaz took Ruth, which is like they were intimate, and she became his wife, and he went into her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. And so Ruth was the ancestor of David, and which was the ancestor of Jesus. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's just recognizing that Boaz was a kind of compassionate man. It's just like, oh, it's so nice. Okay, so it is okay to show interest first, but maybe don't lie at the foot of the bed of the person you are interested in, because that's just kind of weird. Okay, so thank you for joining me for story time. I loved it. It was so fun, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.